Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we have another Amber Collection figure to take a look at. This is Velociraptor Charlie, probably the most elusive Amber Collection figure that there is so far, because the other ones were actually quite easily obtainable, but this guy has been an absolute pain in the butt to find at retail price. But luckily Amazon a few days back had actually put it up for retail price, and I swooped in and grabbed it right away, kind of gave you guys a tip on my YouTube channel in the community section to try to help you guys out if you had not purchased it yet. I don't know how long it actually stayed up for after that point, and I also don't know if it's still currently up for sale, but I did hopefully help you guys acquire one if you hadn't purchased one previously. But I was really excited to finally get a hold of this, and paying retail was really awesome because so many people were paying like 35, 40 bucks or something like that. I actually think maybe even a little more through Toy Wiz. So Amazon came through finally with this awesome Velociraptor Charlie figure. And I actually was not very impressed with the figure on the initial images I had seen. The very early prototype pictures, I absolutely was impressed. But once I actually saw the figure factory released, I really wasn't impressed at all. I thought the paint looked kind of sloppy on it. But seeing it here in person, I may have changed my mind. I guess there's really no true way to tell, though, until we break it out of the box. So we will get it out here in just a second. The box art pretty much looks the same as all the previous Amber Collection box art has, which is meaning that it looks beautiful because it always has an absolutely awesome look. But you can see straight away, actually, there's kind of like that sort of a crest type look to Velociraptor Charlie right there. And they don't actually display that here on this figure. They just kind of gave it another repaint similar to what we've done with Blue and the original Jurassic Park Velociraptors. So that is one little bit of a downside. They don't actually sculpt them out to look perfect as opposed to what they look like in the film. But at the same time, it's still a really cool looking Charlie figure. You've got a little info there on Charlie herself. So let's go ahead and break this out of the box and take a look at her. So here is our stand, as usual, our really nice looking Amber stand. We also have the little peg dealie that will help stand our raptor up. We have this little extra here, which is that kind of strange sort of headgear they put on the raptor in the film of Jurassic World. And then we have Charlie herself, and we don't really need to stand her up on there actually because the Amber Collection Velociraptors can stand totally on their own, but I guess it just helps for display purposes to stand her up on there. So straight away, she does look really quite nice. I will say that. A lot nicer than I expected her to look. When I had seen the images of other people's figures online, the paint just looked really kind of sloppy and looked more like paint than actual body color. It just kind of looked like they slopped some paint on the figure. And although I think on the body itself, it doesn't look absolutely picture perfect, but it does still look pretty darn nice. The detailing there on the legs and arms looks really nice. But it's just some of the paint on the body doesn't look perfect, but honestly it does look a lot better in person than I expected it to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at Velociraptor Charlie right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the head sculpt again is the exact same Velociraptor head sculpt we have used numerous times already. This is the same figure that we had seen painted up like Blue. It's also the same figure that we had painted up like the original initial Velociraptors, so there's no real need to actually go over the sculpt of the figure as we've already reviewed this previously. So if you would like to see more detailed looks at the actual sculpt, I will include a link in the description to both Velociraptor Blue and the Jurassic Park Velociraptor reviews that we have done previously. But as far as what is new, you can see that the head is this very nice green coloration, which we do see on Velociraptor Charlie in the film. You have kind of like goldish eyes with that very nice slit-like appearance for the pupil. And I think that the head looks really nice. You also have a light coloration, like a light gray here for the lower jaw. But I feel like a little more paint variation on the head would have made this look a lot nicer, because it's like they started to paint the body quite nicely for the most part and then just kind of gave up when they got to the head, maybe like darkening around the eyes a little bit or just giving it some color variation on the head would have definitely helped the figure overall, but they didn't do that. They just kind of gave it that green, the light gray, and then the eye paint, and I think it suffers a little bit because of that, but it's not anything that I would say is a factor into not buying the figure. I still think it's absolutely worth the purchase if you are collecting the Amber Collection figures. The inside of the mouth is painted really nicely. There is no sloppiness at all to those teeth. You could see a beautiful gloss coat in there shining and glistening. And one thing I love absolutely love about the Amber Collection figures is you can probably see there's kind of like the appearance of blood on the inside of the mouth of this Velociraptor. And I absolutely love that they include that. It's such a cool addition to the figure, and it's almost like a little Easter egg you wouldn't really look at and notice unless you really inspected the figure, opened the mouth, and got in there and took a look. But you could see that there is definitely some like bloody type of an appearance to certain areas on the inside of the mouth, and with that nice gloss coat, it shines very lifelike, very realistically. As we start to move down the neck, you can now see that these kind of like dark green stripes start to show up, and this is the area where I kind of had like an issue with when I had seen other people's in images, was because the dark green stripes here on the body looked kind of sloppy and just looked like they took like some paint and just brushed it over in a few areas and didn't really take any type of time or care to it. But honestly, in person, it actually looks way nicer than I expected it to. And that's kind of something that many people had told me when I was almost dismissing this figure initially, was that it was a figure that you kind of needed to get in person and take a look at it to really appreciate how nice the paintwork is. And I can definitely say now, having it in hand, I do agree with that. The paint is applied way nicer than I expected it to be, and doesn't look sloppy or anything like my initial thoughts had kind of led me to believe. You can also see that as we get down here, we have this nice dark green, but then as we get closer to like this area right here in the stomach, you can see a light green pick up, and it looks really nice. You can see it run the whole way up from the skull here, from the head down through the neck, down through the stomach, and out here onto the tail. And the tail itself actually kind of transitions to that light green, or a similar variation of that light green. So we go from this dark green, and then it transitions, you can see, quite nicely to a lighter green, and almost gets lighter the further out the tail that we go. And on the underside, we have a very nice light gray that does run the course of the entire body. You can see it goes the entire length of our Velociraptor. You also can tell that we have the same deal here on the hands, where it kind of starts out with that nice dark green and then transitions here. Actually, you have a little bit of that light green again, and then transitions to that light gray here out on the hands. Beautifully painted nails here on the hands, which I absolutely love to see. And once again, we have that same deal here in the leg area. We start out here in the thigh with this nice dark green. Very cool design that's quite similar to what we do actually see on Charlie in the film. And we run down the leg the same length about up there, and then we transition to that really nice light green a little bit, and then down into the very nice light gray foot sculpt, which also includes like some dark green striping throughout as well, and that looks very cool. You also have articulation here in the claw, the sickle claw of our Charlie. Before I go any further, I did want to state that, but the foot looks great, really nicely painted nails. You can see over here the nicely painted nails and the articulation of that sickle claw, and the dew claw is painted, so super, super, super awesome that the dew claw is painted. Also in the stomach region, we have like some variations of gray that kind of runs the course of the entire Velociraptor. You see it all the way out here onto the tail. It runs pretty far out onto the tail and then tapers off right about there, but that does help to give it some color variation. His tail keeps touching the back here and making weird noises, but it does help to give some color variation. And you can see that the opposing side also looks really, really good. Again, the sculpt is fantastic. I've stated that numerous times, and even if it doesn't match up exactly to Velociraptor Charlie from the film, it doesn't have that kind of like a Jurassic Park 3 style, sort of like almost a crest area right here, which it should have. I think it still looks really, really good, and the paintwork overall is far better than I expected it to be, so actually a really nice figure for sure. And then of course we have the base, which is your standard trademark kind of Amber Collection base. There's nothing really new or crazy about it, but it does look really cool regardless. And the beautiful silhouette of the Rex there, the Jurassic Park logo. I will say Jurassic Park, not Jurassic World, just because that's where it originated from, but still really awesome to have that on there as well. And then we have that headgear that goes on Velociraptor Charlie from the film. That also looks quite nice, really nicely sculpted. It's just painted with a nice gray, but you can see it has kind of a glossed effect. It has a little bit of a shiny appearance to it. And another really cool little extra that I love that they throw in with these Amber Collection figures. As far as articulation goes for our Charlie, it's all that same articulation you've seen in the past. So you can see you could turn the head all over the place, swivel it all the way around if you truly would like. So you have articulation here and here in the neck. Quite a bit that can make quite a bit of movement. Really cool stuff for stop motion if you are going to attempt that. It's almost like a modern day stop motion puppet. You also, of course, have the articulation in the jaw, which I have shown you previously. Works fantastic. You can see you can open it to any length and it stays there nicely. You have articulation in the shoulder, which can come out away from the body and go forward and back. The elbow as well, which it's a little hard to do this right now, holding the figure with one hand, and then with the other arm here moving the articulation. But it does have articulation there and in the wrist. So you have articulation in the wrist as well, which can swivel just like the neck. You have articulation in the hip, beautiful articulation there. Articulation in the knee, and then again right here, and then again right here. And then you also have articulation of the sickle claw, which I have shown you also. And then you have articulation of the tail, which can swivel, and the tail itself can bend and is with a wire included, so you can kind of position the tail wherever you would like. So as far as articulation, it is off the charts. Just so much articulation, so much posability and displayability options as far as this Velociraptor figure goes. Really do love that aspect of these figures. And just like with all the others, if you would like to display it on the base, you have an area right here, which almost kind of makes it look like it's urinating, that you slip it into, and, well, if I could get the legs in the right spot, and there we go, our Velociraptor stands up nice and beautifully on its base. I could probably apply it a little better and make it look a little more natural, but regardless, it is on there. As far as the size goes, when it's on the base, we get the head straight forward there a little bit. For a length from the head to the tail, you are looking at about 1.25 feet, so 12.25 inches long, or about 31.5 centimeters for a length. And then for a height, when it's at this nice comfortable position, you're looking at about 6 inches or 15 centimeters, somewhere in that range. But of course, you could stand Charlie up taller if you would like. That's really just depending on your preference. For a size comparison, there are our usual size comparison figures with the Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line. And next to these figures, you have a great idea of just how large this Charlie figure is. Definitely has some really good size to it, as all the Amber Collection figures usually do. This is once again in the same size range as all of the other previous Amber Collection figures, as it is the exact same figure. So that should tell you, if you happen to have one of those, you'll know exactly what the size is. But if you don't and you have just some of these figures, hopefully this helps for you to figure out that the Amber Collection figures are really quite nicely sized. So this Amber Collection Mattel Jurassic World Charlie figure is really, really nice, way, way nicer than I ever gave it credit for. Again, it's one of those figures that, like the people had told me online, they had kind of told me that I needed to see the figure in person because I was sort of dismissing it a little bit and not really taking it too seriously, as I didn't think the paintwork looked all that great on it. And since I had already purchased Blue and the original Jurassic Park Velociraptor, even though actually missing one figure from the collection would have potentially killed me at some point, I wasn't really in any hurry to get it, and considering how hard it was to find, with only really Toy Wiz having it in stock for the most part, and then Entertainment Earth recently put it up for pre-order, and again, I wasn't really sold on ordering from Entertainment Earth. I haven't had too many good experiences ordering from that site, and I know they like to upcharge usually for stuff, so I wasn't really in any hurry to buy from there. I was kind of waiting for Amazon to put it up for retail, because I know that that's usually what you get when you actually have Amazon selling it. It comes up for a really nice price, and eventually it did. So I was happy to actually pick it up. I had some gift cards saved up on there that I was just kind of waiting and utilizing for this purpose exactly. And once it popped up, I placed an order immediately, and I actually am really happy I did, because in hand, in person, this figure looks much nicer than I ever expected it to be. The greens on this Velociraptor are really beautiful, very nice vibrant greens, and I love the way they've applied that nice darker green, but then also a little bit of a lighter green, almost like a yellowish green in certain areas of Charlie to give her some paint variation, some color variation, and that was a really nice choice on their part. And I also love how it kind of transitions nice and smoothly to that lighter green out there on the tail. I think overall that is a really nice look for the figure. And the way that they've applied the darker greens, the really dark greens that kind of stripe along the body, is the one thing that I had kind of an issue with going into the figure, but actually having it in hand, I can say that it does look way nicer here in person than I thought it did initially. The only area I think that looks a little iffy would be the tail, kind of with the way that they've striped down the tail, because that area is a little inconsistent as far as the way the stripes go. I would have liked more of like a nice striping that runs the whole length of the tail, as opposed to just kind of random stripes throughout the tail here and there. But maybe I just need to take another look at Charlie and see exactly how she looked in the film, because it has been quite a while since I did look at a Charlie image, so maybe that's how the tail looks. I don't know. I don't really remember. But regardless, personally, I would have liked a little bit more of consistent type of striping down the tail, but even that doesn't really take away from the figure. I still think it's absolutely beautiful as far as the appearance goes and the coloration used. I love that they've done that kind of striping effect down onto the legs and everything there as well. And one thing that's always really awesome about the Mattel figures, of course, is the fact that they throw in some extras, and with this one we get that headgear that we had seen in Jurassic World, so that even though it's not anything amazing, is still really cool to have included. You have a beautiful Amber Collection style base, so all of your Amber Collection figures look like they belong together and have that really cool Amber style of display ability with the figures, so I do really quite like that as well. And then of course you have just absolute tons of articulation, so that stand does come in handy when you display your figure. You can have it in all sorts of dynamic poses and everything, and that's where the stand kind of comes in and helps you out, because I had stated earlier the Amber Collection figures can stand on their own perfectly fine, but if you really want to display it in some sort of a crazy way, you're going to need that base. So the very cool Amber Collection base does look really nice and helps to, again, give you so many different options as far as display ability for your Velociraptor figure. So if you would like to pick this up, I will link you to Amazon where I purchased mine. Again, I don't know entirely for sure right now if it is up for retail, but if it is not, make sure you just keep checking back, because it does tend to come back into stock every so often for retail price, sort of similar to the Spinosaurus from Mattel with Target, but actually way more often can you get this than that Spino. That Spino was a nightmare to get. But as far as this figure, it does tend to show up back in stock on Amazon for retail. So just kind of add it to your wish list or something. Keep an eye on it if it isn't already up for sale for retail, but there's a pretty good chance that it could be. So make sure, again, you check the description. Go purchase this really cool Velociraptor Charlie Amber Collection figure, but also make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.